think I've managed to make the worst coffee that I've ever made in my entire life today. It's so weak. Apart from the time where I put salt in instead of sugar. That was that was definitely the worst time. Yeah, that's weak, but at least it's not salty. Anyway, let's get on with the video, shall we? Today, as you've seen by the title, we're going to be looking at this wonderful book, which is Witch by Rebecca Tamas. Now, I apologise, actually I don't apologise, but letting you know that the book is a bit manky because, well, I'm scruffy. The book is a bit worn and it's got tea stains on it and stuff, but anyway, sign of a well-used, well-loved book. They're not meant to be pristine, are they? So anyway, we're looking at Witch by Rebecca Tamas. And I absolutely love this book. I actually used this book quite extensively while researching for my master's degree, just for inspiration and because it was very much following on the same themes. So I grew to really, really love this book during those 2 years, and yeah, every time I pick it up I just feel something new and it's wonderful. Rebecca Tamas was born in London and currently lives in York, where she lectures at York St John University. Rebecca is the editor, with Sarah Shin, of the anthology Spells, Occult Poetry for the 21st Century, which I have a video about I shall link somewhere. She has published 3 pamphlets of poetry, the Ophelia Letters, Savage and Tiger, which is her first full-length collection. So it's a debut full-length collection from Rebecca Tamas, and let me tell you, it is wild. So to give you a bit of a flavour, I'll read you out the blurb. Witch is a strange, visceral and darkly witty debut by a startling new voice in British poetry. Rebecca Tamas reckons with blood and earth, mysticism and the devil, witch trials and the suffragettes, gender and sexuality. At turns lyrical, philosophical and obscene, Witch evokes the intimate, sensual power of nature and merges it with the revolutionary potential of women's voices. These are poems as spells, spells against suppression, silence and obedience, hexes that cling to your body like sweat, full of a messy, violent joy. A small, bright, filthy song. Feminist, ecological and occult, Witch grabs history and shakes it, demanding, wake me up when it really gets started. And if that doesn't intrigue you, then I do not know what will. Let's open up the book. So the book begins, don't know why I'm showing you this, it's not very exciting at all. There's a title page, wow, it says Witch, which is the title. Anyway, it begins with 2 quotes. So Anne Sexton is an American poet, and the quote from her is, "A woman like that is not a woman, quite. I have been her kind." And then we have a quote from Theodore Adorno that says, "What differs from the existent will strike the existent as witchcraft." Now, just to give you a general flavour of Tamas's writing, it's not for everyone. It might strike some as slightly nonsensical. I can definitely see that. It might seem overly vulgar if you don't like words like cunt and penis and things like that. Put it this way, I probably won't give a copy of it to my grandma, which is a shame, you know, because I personally love vulgar language. I think it can be really visceral and it can just be so cathartic to use really vulgar language. So I love that about this collection, and it just gives it that really unapologetic air. But you know, different people like different things, so if that's something you don't like, then you probably won't like this collection very much. But to me, I feel like the collection as a whole, the way she writes, it just feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels really like an outpouring. To construct something that flows so well is very impressive. So I really, really admire Tamas for that. She mixes folklore, feminism and violence in a way that I really personally love. I love all 3 of those things, and they are the foundations that I build my writing on as well. So it feels like, how can I describe it? It just feels like eating a really gorgeous cake. It's like I don't know. The voice of the poet, that's like the most terrible metaphor ever. But it just feels like part of you thinks you shouldn't be having it, but then you're like, no, I'm going to have it and I'm going to fucking enjoy it. And I wouldn't say it shocked me, but some parts were, when I first read it, a bit like, oh, okay, wow. And I found it amazing and so like enthralling and indulgent, and I find it so important. So let's read out some of the titles just to give you a bit of a flavour. The first poem is called Penis Hex. And then we've got Interrogation 1. Witch and the Devil, Witch and the Suffragettes, Witch Scold, Witch Government, Witch Wood, Witch Europe. Spell for Logic, Spell for Online Porn, Spell for Sex, Spell for Mysticism, Witch Pagan, Witch City, Witch Trials, Spell for Midsummer's Day, Spell for January, Spell for UN Resolutions, Spell for Maths, Spell for the Witch's Hammer, bit of a Kramer reference there, which I've done a video about the Malleus Maleficarum, which is the hammer of witchcraft, so I'll link that up above as well. Witch Volcano, Witch Knowing, Interrogation 2 and Context. So I've not read all of the titles out, but that's kind of a general flavour of what you can expect from this collection. So I really like how she has so many poems entitled Witch and or Witch something, and it's really kind of hammering home the reclamation of the word or the title witch, and it's so unapologetic. She's got it in capitals and I just love that little touch. Tamas frequently explores female narratives, and that's really evident in the first poem, which is Penis Hex. So I shall read it to you and then just go into a little bit of detail. So, Penis Hex. The hex for a penis isn't really all about the penis. The penis is not an issue, all fine doing its own thing. Ink blot semen, sweet white plaster, pale peach tartlet. But when it goes, you see a lot of things. To hex a penis off means taking a laugh out for a walk, long and blue, cold as Russia. Laughing and laughing, your mouth is open, let your girlfriend see your tongue. To hex a penis off, wrap yourself up in a warm bed and no one is there. Intellectual persuasion, hand in the unowned air, peeling strips off dull bleached sky. Hex like Artemisia. Holofernes head back, the fucking sucker. Head back and tirades full of blood. He goes down, way, way down. Judith's painted hand is a snare. She is catching your penis and taking it home. Hex with a plate of grilled pears against cream. A glass of just pink wine. Teacups porcelain thrush egg blue. You're soft under the breath, singing. Hex it off with a little journey. Islands of any kind, ideally somewhere cold. Green things butting out into a black-grey sea. No one is on the island to tell you the kind of things you should be touching. That's not the end of the poem, but that's where I'll leave it. So you may have noticed, creaky chair, so you may have noticed the references to Holofernes and Judith. Now, Judith is a recently reclaimed feminist icon. Originally she was from the Deuterocanonical, I can never say that word, Deuterocanonical, the Deuterocanonical Book of Judith. And she is a recently reclaimed feminist icon because she uses her sexuality as a form of power to enable her to basically behead the abusive Holofernes. The imagery here of the grilled pears against cream is a very fertile imagery. Grilled pears are used a lot to indicate fertility. For example, in The Merchant's Tale, Chaucer, oh my god, what's she called? She's called May. He's called January, and she's called something like May. She asks her husband if he can get her some pears. And that's basically her way of saying that she's pregnant. She's like, oh, I've got a real hankering for pears, which, yeah, basically means to the reader that, and to him, that she's pregnant. So pears, very fertile connotations, and pears against cream. Cream is obviously an incredibly sexual image. And because Tamas writes hex with a plate of grilled pears against cream, that's the source of the woman's power. So it's the reclamation of power and reclamation of sexuality that works so perfectly alongside Judith, and the really violent imagery of the beheading against the sweet grilled pears against cream. And of course, a pear could possibly look slightly sexual. I don't know. Take that how you will. Now we'll go to look at the next poem, which is Interrogation 1. And this is a slightly different format in that it's set out like an interview, which I find really interesting. It's obviously a nod to the witch trials and how ridiculous the interrogations are. So I'll read it to you now. Are you a witch? Are you? Have you had relations with the devil? Have you? Have you had relations with the devil, and what took place? I kissed him under the tail. It was a bit like soil, a bit like road tar when it heats up. He was flickering in pleasure. The field would be just the same when I tongued that, the bird's feathers parting. What knowledge did the devil give you? I built a house near to the sea. The roof is red-orange. The sky is a shaking plate of light peeling you back. There is grass out on the front. There is grass out the front. Some metal bins. You can see a lighthouse. I began to sleep with the windows open. I began to creep along the bed to my own globe face in the mirror, sitting rubbed up in myself in this fierce fire. It does not come from me. Even the stones in the drive are crackling with it. What did the devil make you do under his control? His mother had just died. We ate mint ice cream by the coffin. He was missing her. My sock was loose. We kept laughing. What is magic? Picture an egg yolk, that huge yellow throw-up sun, dementedly singing, falling out of itself, birthed and reverent. And it goes on in a similar vein for the rest of the poem, but you'll just have to read it yourself. And I really like the way that she does experiment so much with form and structure. I find the interrogation to be, because the same questions are asked multiple times, it's reminiscent of the constant re-asking of a question until they would get the answer that they wanted, which was prevalent in the witch trials. I'll now read you Spell for the Witch's Hammer. A two-pronged sword to put them down. Out there a lot of things happen. Witches undo each other. A candle in each opening. Witches wake at night and cry. Beasts with curly horns comfort them. Suck gently. Witches go astray. Carnality, swooping and fluttering, like a ragged flag. They laugh so much, covered in purple bruises, teaching tricks, GPS of the eternal flagellant light, always going home. The witch's hammer sinks into flesh, then disappears, and only Mercury remains, its little peasant trail. The witches eat your book, then you, then everything. I find that so powerful, and when you think about Malleus Maleficarum and all the absolutely heinous things that it says about women, the utter misogyny. I love the final 3 lines. The witches eat your book, then you, then everything. Because of course there was a big thing about witches eating babies and eating all sorts, and so just the idea of witches eating the Malleus Maleficarum is just the most amazing and imagery, to be honest. I know I've already said unapologetic, but that's what this collection is to me. It's just a series of poems that when you feel like the world is all wrong and it's all misogynistic and shit, you can read this book and feel as though it's like, oh, actually there are people that are on our side, there are people that feel the same, there are people that are angry, but also think, you know, see the magic and feel the magic and feel empowered as well. It's not just doom and gloom, it's like these awful things are happening and we're doing something about it. And that's the vibe that I get from this book. It's like, actually, no, we are fucking magical and we don't deserve this shit, and yeah, we're changing it and it's tough and I'm writing about it. And that's what I really love about this book. So I hope that you've got a good flavour of what Rebecca Tamas can offer. I'm always very cautious not to give too much away in these reviews because I don't want to just give someone else's like poetry away for free without adding a decent amount of commentary to it and things and leaving you wanting more. So I shall leave a link in the description below where you can buy this, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who loves poetry or witchcraft or feminism, folklore, whatever. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else I want to say. Follow me on Instagram at RGWoodWitch. Bye. Oh, also, I'll leave a link below to the Choose Love hoodie as well, because they are really doing really important work for refugees. So yeah, thanks for watching.